At number 85 on the Iconic 100 list is the 1996-97 Kobe Bryant EX2000 rookie card. And here to talk with us about this iconic card today is Ty at Drummond Card Collector on Instagram. Ty, I know that this isn't a card that you actually included on your top 75 iconic list, but we are still outside of the top 75. We're at number 85 right now. What do you think about this as a landing spot for the EX2000 Kobe?
I don't have any problem with this being landing here where it did. I think this is an awesome card. Anything EX, starting in I think 95 EXL,
Yep.
pushing forward. But this set really took it to a new level, in my opinion. And you saw it with kind of the preview of it in 95, I think, with the effect with the you can kind of translucent, you can see through the back. But this is a base card that looks like it would be an epic insert when you're talking about 90s cards, right? I did not have this in my top 75. If I had done a full ranking of 100, it may have cracked my top 100. But again, I mentioned this when we talked about the Manning at 95, the Contenders Auto Manning at 95 on this list. Same thing. I had to look at all of the cards, all of the sports, all of the athletes, and try to say, where am I going to fit this card in relative to other athletes who I just feel really have earned the right to be on this list with very important cards of the, respectively of each of them. So I opted for the Chrome Kobe over this card at number 20. Now, if you're just asking me straight up, irrespective of value, which of these two cards would I rather have? I would rather have the EX card over the Chrome Kobe every time. I love the set. I love the innovation. I love the aesthetic of it. Even a lot of times I'm not a big fan of like green cards necessarily, but even something about that just does it for me. It's awesome. It's obviously not the credentials, version, which would be really cool to have, but the green works. And this set just, it sort of paved the way for like a whole new chapter in innovation in the 90s, which obviously Fleer was, and the Arena team and Skybox were kind of pioneering. So
this card, I agree with you on the fact that it looks like an insert. It's got to be, if you make a list of the top 5 base sets of all time, I think it's on every one of those lists, right? As is probably the next year of EX. 96 and 97 EX are just 2 of the best looking base sets of all time. And I think you're exactly right also about it not being as high as the Kobe Chrome. The thing that I want to point out here that I think is important is that for purposes of the survey and of the list, we do put together all versions of a specific card. So in this case, we're talking about the 96 EX Kobe Bryant. We're also talking about the 96 EX Kobe Bryant credentials card, which in terms of how iconic they are, we like to think about those two together. The reason that we really have to do that is that, you look at even like a card like a prism card of LeBron James, for example, right? Do we talk about his gold, his silver, and his regular card as like 3 different cards? Well, if we do, then it takes up a lot of space. It's hard to sort of compare them and what it means by iconic. And so, for purposes of this, we've kept them together. And I'm exactly like you, Ty. Like, as I think about like the aesthetics of the card, to me, it's one of the best looking cards ever made in either form.
Yeah.
And then, you talk about how hard it is to get in a super high grade, either in the credentials or in the base card. And what I love about it is you have, in raw copies, you find the card for not that much money. Honestly, it's not too expensive. But then if you want to talk about getting like a super high grade for either the base or the credentials, you can get into like huge numbers. I think, the base or the credentials in a PSA 10, for example, is like many hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's actually worth more than all but like the black label chrome refractors. And so, depending on how you view this card, and depending also on like what kind of spender you are, where you are in the hobby, this card can be, everybody's grail. It could be a low end or no, I shouldn't say low end, but it could be like a more, modest spending collector's grail, or it could be like an ultra high end person's grail. To me, that's really a cool element of an iconic card, is when it can be an important card for any level of collector.
Yeah. I've done a lot of videos. 96 was like the height of my heyday as a child collecting in the 90s. And I was primarily basketball back then. And that 96 draft class is still to me it's the most memorable draft class for me. I don't know if it's the greatest of all time, but it's
It
up
might
there.
be. It's
top,
right there.
It's top three, in my opinion. But there's just so much nostalgia associated with that. It really started with the hype around Iverson back then, but you had so many other guys, and how electric Stephon Marbury was, and Steve Nash came into his own later, and all these guys, right? But then Kobe obviously was right there in that mix, and he's critically important. All of his cards from that year are critically important. Like I look at Kobe's. I've recently started kind of putting in more of a focus on picking up more important Kobe cards for my PC and as, kind of long-term investments. But I've done multiple videos for Sports Card Investor, kind of talking about Kobe's rookies and how I think it's, interesting that even just his Topps flagship has sort of like risen so much in terms of like the price that people are willing to pay for it. When Topps was such an entry-level product, you sort of anchor it obviously to the importance and relevance of 96 Chrome and what that means. But that's why I put the Chrome so much higher than this EX card, just in terms of iconic, because it's like everybody knows it. Everybody knows the Chrome and the Topps base card from that year. Whereas you could sort of slot the EX in with so many of his other cards, all of them, Upper Deck, Skybox, UD3, like Metal, just the list goes on and on and on. Ultra is a fantastic one. So I think, like you said, when you put the credentials with it, definitely very, very important, just in terms of iconic. Hard for me to rank that one in my top 75, but not surprised to see it land in the top 100.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about right now in terms of like rookie cards is super interesting, because he's got like 25 or 30, like he's probably got 40 different rookie cards that we could just sort of list off the top of our heads, right? And as basketball card collectors, they're each important for different reasons. And we talk about why, but only a few of them got to make the iconic 100 list. I'm glad this one did, because it would feel a little bit sad to me if only the Chrome and the Topps, that version, if only that made the list. That's obviously a lot higher on the list, and we're going to see that, as we tick down. You said you put that one at 20, right?
20.
Yeah. But here, I think this card at 85, one of the best looking cards of all time. And I think about, you've seen these pictures that people post on Instagram of like them holding up this card to like a cloudy day, like a blue sky with like some white clouds in the background, that see through back, and you put that card up and it just feels like, okay, that's one of Kobe's key cards. And so I'm glad it made the list. Again, at number 85, the 1996-97 EX Kobe Bryant, also with the credentials. Tomorrow we will be back with card number 84 on the iconic 100. And until then, happy collecting.